So earlier this year, Sharon Flynn introduced me to Wendy Hargreaves. You may remember Sharon from episode 10 when we talked about fermented foods. And she said to me, "Oh, you and Wendy, you are going to get on like a house on fire." And I was really excited because I love Wendy's work as a journalist. For decades, I have read her articles in the top newspapers in Australia. And my dad and I really enjoy listening to her 3AW radio show On the Road Again, where she celebrates rural Australia. I'd also watched her short film series about women in hospitality that won a bunch of awards in America, particularly the story about Kate Reid, which was everywhere because Lune Crescenterie has become a phenomenon in Australia. And when I met Wendy, I was just captivated by her energy and enthusiasm for food and life and her unending curiosity about everything. And then Wendy joined our 60-day reset because she wanted to make some changes with her health, and I got to know her even better. And we had some fantastic conversations about how her early childhood experiences and work as a food critic influenced her relationship with food. And it was inspiring to watch how she flipped the switch and actively changed her relationship with food. It was a story that many people in our community related to. So I had to have her on the podcast to share it with you. I think it's really going to resonate. Oh, you are in for a treat. So let's get the skinny from Wendy Hargreaves. Oh, Wendy, thank you for having this conversation with me. I'm excited to talk to you about your relationship with food. It's been a really fascinating ongoing conversation, and dear listener, I'm so excited that we can bring you into it. So I want to start with what it was like growing up in a small country town and how that shaped your relationship with food and story and journalism.
It's an odd one because I started life on a farm, but neither of my parents were farmers. My grandparents were. But I spent my first few years chasing chooks around, which I knew would become chicken dinner, and collecting eggs and feeling really connected to that place. And I think it's really important the first few years of your life, right? Like where you eat your first food and drink your first water, and it just becomes part of your whole body, and you carry it around for the rest of your life. So whenever I go back to that funny little place called Illawarra, southwest of Melbourne, it's not even a town, it's just a postcode. But whenever I go back there, I just feel this, I understand what Australia's Aboriginal people are talking about when they talk about their land. Like I can't even begin to experience what they've gone through, but that feeling of all of your cells knowing they're in the place where they started. So then we moved into town. My dad was a barber, and he loved a beer, and he was never home for dinner. And he'd come home with the Evening Herald, back when we had those blissful evening newspapers.
Yeah.
With a couple of chocolate bars tucked inside for my brother and I, because I think he was feeling a bit guilty about not making it home for dinner on any given night. And so therefore the smell of newsprint and the taste of cheap shit chocolate has basically driven my entire career. I find like crappy Cadbury just absolutely irresistible because
same. It's delicious.
It's all tied back to my, the way my dad expressed love. And
oh, yeah.
And he was also on the radio doing football commentary because so I ended up in radio. Like it, and I didn't even think about it when it was happening. It's only been in the last little while looking back. And then at the same time, I spent a lot of time with my grandmother on the dairy farm, and my grandfather, feeding the little sooky calves and helping with the dairy. But I'd be happiest in the kitchen with my grandmother, who was the sort of woman who could see that someone was turning into the driveway of the farm and have a batch of scones whipped up and in the oven by the time they got to the front door, so that she'd have the freshly whipped cream and the teapot warming and yes, come in, and she might take them to the good room. And to this day, I'm able to do that magic scone thing without using recipe, just chuck butter in, rub, and milk, egg, oven. And So they were two big influences on my food thing. It's like finding everything you need on the farm, which is what my
Yeah.
grandmother did, and then from the other extreme, getting totally sucked into corporate confectionery.
But food as a reward.
Yeah,
And food as comfort, food as communion, food as a welcoming invitation. And that
exactly.
gets modeled to all of us in
That's exactly right.
society.
And that's the best thing about being in your late 50s. You sort of you're able to be a bit more circumspect about what's been driving you. And I've been really fortunate to work with some amazing people in the last few years to help me see what my drivers are and that little egoic dysfunction that keeps me slipping back into my normal, what seem as normal ways. But then, look, at the same time, I had a mum who was a working mum. She was the first artificial inseminator who was a woman in Australia.
Wow.
So she was a bull. She was a bull for a living.
Oh, I'll
And she worked
say.
hard. She went around lots and lots of farms through the Otway Ranges. And I used to go, if I ever had a sickie from school, I'd travel around with her and see how she interacted with the farmers. But she always wanted to have something ready for us when we got home from school. Like, even though she was working her ass off, there'd be like a ginger fluff or a tea cake or something waiting for us when we got home from school. That's how she expressed love as well.
So it was sugar, like so many of us.
So many
When you're going through a
things.
bad day, I'll bring you a cake. When somebody dies, people show up with cookies. And I
Right.
mean, this is just modeled and modeled and modeled.
And I think there's a little bit of genes in it as well, because I mean, I raised my two daughters with like hardly any refined sugar in their lives. Like I just, they might have it every so often at a birthday party or something like that. And now they're 20 and 22, and my youngest blames me because as soon as she got to school and university, she's like, I just was able to eat everything and you didn't teach me how to control it.
Oh, that's so interesting. Yeah, but this relationship with food and desire and comfort and love and connection, it constantly comes up every day. And it is something very interesting to look at and of interest, not because I can't think of a better word. And you and I have continued to speak about this
We have.
relationship.
It's been
Yeah.
fascinating.
And the addiction to sugar, the addiction
Absolutely.
to sweetness in life.
It's real. And when it's not just a physical, like a crack addict, it's a physical thing. You have a little bit of refined sugar and you just want more, and you're not even conscious of what you're eating. It's just going in your mouth until it's gone.
But what you're also talking about is safety and comfort.
Yeah.
As well. Like that's something that was ingrained, and you've hooked the taste and the memory of sweet and sugar to those feelings with your key family members.
That's right. So so then I took off to uni and I did O Week. I couldn't wait to leave the country town. It was just like, that's the only thing I was thinking about was getting out of there. And I knew I wanted to be a journalist. So I started a journalism degree, did orientation week, and heard that they were hiring at the Geelong Advertiser and went for a cadetship and got it. And it ended up basically being the only job interview I've ever done, because everything after that just sort of rolled into the next gig in media, in newspapers. I was a news journalist, so I was covering police and courts. I was covering sport, politics, health, education. I'm cursed with being able to read a medical journal and understand pretty much what's going on. And so I think I know what's going on, but don't really. Like I'm a master of everything and nothing as a news journalist. You've got to know a little bit about everything. And then I was in my happy place. I was going to become the first female editor at the Herald Sun, which still hasn't happened.
It's unbelievable, isn't it? Yeah.
I know. And I was on my way, and I had to work in the Canberra Press Gallery for a little while, because that's something you have to do as a journalist if you want to rise up into management. So I was on my way to Canberra, everything packed in a truck. And at the time, my parents had recently separated, so it was all a bit hairy, but they'd repartnered as well, which was lovely. Mum was living with cancer, with bowel cancer, but she's like, go, you've got to go. I can look after this. I've got this under control. And she had a loving partner. And then I get a phone call from Dad to say that he's got lung cancer, but it's a bit faster and more aggressive. Luckily, he's married. He's become a partner with a theatre nurse. So I knew he'd be okay. But I had to turn around and come back with both parents with cancer on opposite sides of the state. And in that moment, I basically realised that I was spinning my wheels for not just an organisation, but an industry that loved me for everything I gave it, but I wasn't actually really getting anything from it except that kudos of breaking yarns. I was a story machine. I could just, I knew I could walk into a room and find a story. And my bosses loved me for it, but at the same time made it very clear that I was very lucky to have that job. And there were hundreds of people waiting to take it from you. And so it was like this, it was always very competitive. But anyway, I just ended up moving in with the man that I just met. We were engaged a few months later. Dad's oncologist said, oh, if you want to get married, you better get married in the next few weeks because your dad won't be able to walk you down the aisle. So we were married in another 4 or 5 weeks. And then as soon as I had unprotected sex, I was pregnant. So it was like in the space of a year, I went from this crazy, driven, almost a protected species because you're in a bubble. Well, you used to be as a journalist. It's not so much now. It's a bit more commercial. But if you're producing stories, they leave you alone. You're on your own trip. And to then realizing that family was much more important. And, my parents ended up dying about 10 months apart, and Mum passed away 2 weeks before my eldest was born. And so it was like a big rug being pulled from under me. Everything that I'd known for the previous 20 years, basically. I just had to reinvent myself because it wasn't what I wanted anymore. Of course I went back after I had babies. Of course I went back to newspapers because that's what I knew.
But you'd already decided before you got married and got pregnant that was it does not have to be me moment in the current form of your journalistic career.
Well,
you'd already decided, and then the rug got pulled further. And so how did you reinvent yourself? What did you decide to do?
Well, it's interesting because in the newsroom, there'd never been a part-time female before. As soon as you had a baby, you worked in features, like in the nice soft bits, not the hard news bit. So my boss, though, he was amazing, and he was a great boss, and he'd say, look, come back 4 days a week, come back 3 days a week, come back 2 days a week, come back 1 day a week. And I refused it and actually quit because I knew that I couldn't be the person that I was. I'd been broken and put back together in a different way. I couldn't be that 100% on, okay, now you do this and who, what, where, why, when, how, bang, and I wasn't that person anymore. So I left for a while, but then they eventually dragged me back to write columns, which was fun, just writing my opinion, which is a
opinion about what?
Whatever I felt like. It was quite funny. There weren't many female voices in the opinion pages, so I'd write silly things like like men who wear brightly coloured lycra that are starting to wear out a bit. You really should think about it before you get on a bike.
No, oh my God.
I'd just have a crack at them, and then the entire cycling fraternity would be on my ass. And then, I might write about. I come from a farming background, and my husband grew up on a farm as well. And at the time, vegan politics was huge. There was I was getting, everyone was angry about animal cruelty, and the whole veganism thing was a strong thing. So I kicked back a bit and said, if you don't do mulesing on sheep, they'll die from fly strike, and that everything I did was confrontational, and it was designed to be as an opinion. And I sort of became a voice of the country because there weren't really any country people writing in what was one of the biggest metro dailies in Australia. So that's sort of how that happened.
And what was that like for you? As you were saying early on in your life, you were tied to the land, you felt that affinity, but then you couldn't wait to get out of there.
Yeah.
And then you decided that you were going to be the voice of
Yeah.
rural Australia.
It was interesting. It was a sudden realization that I could speak country. I could actually speak to country people, and I knew that you take little pauses and you stand back a bit, and it's a different way of communicating in the country. You're not as fast and in your face and
So
busy.
tell me how you discovered that as you were writing these opinion pieces. You were researching and meeting people and then falling into that rhythm with them. Is that how you discovered that you actually all along spoke country?
I have I have a brother who's a country copper, and he's my bullshit detector. Like, whenever you become too much of a wanker, he's like, oh God, you're such a wanker. And it always just bring me down, like, okay, yep, this is actually who I am. Why am I trying to be this person? This is who I am. And when I became more authentic about who I wasn't this sort of inner city fast going journo that I was pretending to be. I was a girl who grew up in the bush and worked hard to get to where she was, and understood things about the country that city people didn't understand. And so I felt like I needed to make that connection. And that was going really well. But like all great things, they get ripped from under you. In the news game, they do anyway. At the time, MasterChef happened in Australia.
It swept the country.
Yeah, it was a juggernaut. And my editor
Yeah.
said that he wanted me to set up a food section in the newspaper I was working for. And I called him so many 4-letter words that you probably would, it was very blue. I was very angry because it's like, you want me to be a effing cooking writer? You want me to write about cookery after all these years and all the things I've done? It's like, you're not going to ask that bloke over there to do it, are you? Like, I was just wild.
Yeah.
But he was a sensible, smart man. He said, look, just treat it like all the other rounds that you've done. It's all about the people. Just get stories. Just treat it like a round. And which I did. And it ended up being a life-changing experience for me because I realised that it was connecting me back to this food story, and the people in it are just so fun. Chefs and restaurateurs are great fun. I had a great time reviewing restaurants and did that for a while until lockdown happened and everything just ground to a complete zero halt. There was nothing happening. And did you have this thing test during lockdown where you actually started remembering your dreams and having lucid dreams?
Yes. And so many people I speak to have had the same experience.
It's crazy. Like I don't have them now. My brain's back to spinning at 1,000,000 miles an hour again, I think. So my brain.
But the aperture changed. The aperture changed. And
did.
it really was an invitation to see things differently and be present with what is. And some people embraced and took up that invitation, and other people really resisted it. And I saw the dreams as bursts of clarity coming to the surface. So what kind of dreams? You've got to tell me now some of the dreams that were happening.
There were two really pivotal, like life-changing dreams that I had, and they happened in the same week. The first one was because I'd been doing a streaming TV show for a service called Ticker, which is like Netflix had a baby with Sky News in Melbourne. And I had half an hour of talking to chefs and restaurateurs about how they were surviving, not how shit it was, but what they were doing to get by, to try and do something to help. And I was doing auto cue. I'd never done on-camera work before. I'd done some radio, but it changed. I thought, I'm producing this whole thing myself. I'm putting it to air. I can do this. So it gave me this little bit of a leg up and allowed me to work a little bit. In that frame, I'd had this dream that I was in the car driving off into the countryside, and I knew I was going to find a story. I just knew it. And I had this great feeling of anticipation. I didn't know what the story was. I just knew I was going to find it. And it sort of set me back in this time, this blissful time as a young reporter, where I was sent out with photographers for like 1 or 2 weeks on end out into the country, come back with a bag of stories. That was the brief. And we'd roll into a town, walk into the pub, find out who's who, and end up finding a bloke who wears roadkill and lives in a teepee, like the sort of stories that used to be on page 1 and 3 as picture stories of newspapers when journalists got out to find things rather than the following up social media crap that everyone's doing now. Anyway, it got me back into that frame of mind. And I woke up that day, wrote a pitch for 3AW for a show called On the Road Again, where I said it's going to be like back roads with live talk back. I'm going to go to towns that people drive through to get somewhere else and find out why people live there and why people should visit. And everyone was in regional mode in lockdown. We were desperate to get out of our houses, but we couldn't leave the ring of steel. So as soon as we were busting out, regional towns were eaten a bit. So we had 3AW bought it, and I'm still on air. I'm still doing it.
Yes, you are. And it's fabulous.
Yeah, it's a total love job. I'm on air with an amazing broadcaster called Peter Grubby Stubbs, who's been in Melbourne forever.
Yes. And aren't love jobs just the best jobs?
Yes. Absolutely. And it allows me to travel on massive road trips with absolute impunity and claim it all on tax. It's awesome. And then 2 nights later, I have a dream that I'm a toddler. I'm back on the farm. I'm sitting in the mud. I'm squishing my fingers and toes in the mud, and I'm so blissfully happy that I'm giggling like a maniac. And the next morning I wake up and I bought some clay and just thought, yeah, this is actually my mental health plan. This is what I need to get through lockdown. I feel so good. I feel so centered with this mud in my hands, and found a secondhand wheel and set it up on my back deck.
And you just started throwing.
And that was, what is it now, 5 years ago. I really thought it'd be lovely to be in a studio nearby. That happened. Found someone with a studio nearby. Then this weird thing happened. Be careful what you wish for, right? It's one of those things that.
But you dreamed it.
I dreamed it, and then now there's a new studio that's exactly 5 minutes walk from my front door, where I teach a beginner class once a week, and in return I have 24-hour access to the studio and the clay and the kiln and everything. And so there's zero money changing hands. It's a voluntary role, but I get to actually play.
Yeah.
And it's a beautiful thing. And that happened because of a dream as well. So now I'm figuring out a way to bring my pottery world, which is now, I'm getting commissions from restaurants and people, and it's becoming a business. And I want to draw it into my journalism world by telling the stories of great people on the land, great farmers, great producers, and making something that it's been inspired by them. So making butter dishes for my favourite dairy farm and orange squeezes for my favourite orange farm, and telling their story popping something online for people to read with photos with a little QR code on my piece, so they know that this was inspired by them. So I'm hoping that will drag everything together for me, but that's a work in progress.
Well, I mean, it sounds like you manifest your dreams. So it will present itself, and you'll seize the opportunities and go down a road. And if it's not the right road, you'll change course like you have been your whole life. Where did this passion for telling the specific stories about the makers and growers come from? Was that also born out of a dream? Was it your brother's bullshit detector at play? Was it all of the above?
Yeah, maybe it was a bit of all of the above. I think the dream that I had about going off into the country was very much about connecting the city to the bush, because there's a massive cavernous hole between the city and the bush. People in the city think they understand when they go for little day trips, but they're getting the Dalesford experience,
Yes.
It's nothing like what it's really like living in the country, where they've got, fewer hospitals, fewer schools, fewer everything, and they're tenacious, and they're really good at making do and with what they've got. And I think that's the thing that I want city people to know, people in the country, that the other thing is, I don't know, anyone who's grown up in a country town knows that when they're, you can't get away with anything. There are eyes on you constantly, right? It's this,
Yes.
it's like you've got aunties and uncles.
It's a
And
blessing and a curse.
yeah, my husband hated it. He just hated it. And he loves being invisible in the city, whereas I really missed that. And I think that, especially in lockdown, when everyone did start forming connections in communities and
Mm.
rediscovering their suburbs and who actually lives next door and having secret laneway parties and things like that, it kind of reminded me that country towns are much healthier places to live because everyone knows each other's business and they know to stay out of it. They know not to judge it. They're just there. You know, you don't.
And there's also an ownership of the community.
Yeah.
We all take a part in owning, cultivating, nourishing, feeding the community.
Yeah, that's right. And there'll be people that might not be as beloved as others, but they're people. They're the people in this town. We look after everybody. And I'm really lucky to have married a country boy. And I'm sure that's why we're married now, like 24 years later. It's because we have that same set of values, which is that you look out for people and you don't bullshit people because you'll be found out.
Oh gosh, isn't that truth? Also championing local people. We're so used to wanting everything at our fingertips all the time, whether it's in season or not. And we don't think about, typically the average person is not thinking about celebrating local suppliers and growers and how that's better for the environment, better for the community, better for, everything. We're just buying it on Amazon or getting it shipped from overseas or, so this voice of the country, I want to tell these stories, I speak country, it keeps coming back around. This love of country folk and what is going on in rural Australia.
Yeah, it really is. Like just yesterday, I was at the Melbourne Showgrounds where they're judging the meat. They just finished judging the dairy for the Melbourne show, which is on in September next month. And
which the average person thinks is all about the show bags and the ride.
Yeah. But it's the Royal Agricultural Society of Victoria. The whole thing was set up for rural Victoria to come and show their produce and show off a bit and get ribbons and gold medals and things like that. And I just thought this is so disconnected. Even the Royal Agricultural Society of Victoria is too disconnected from what's going on. So I've basically pitched to them, and I will be very soon going into the country and talking to the champions of the show, and so people can see them in their actual environment in a video documentary rather than just on a podium at the showgrounds, and try and make that connection. And hopefully that should be a bit of fun. There'll be interesting people.
Yeah, I can't wait to see that.
I'm hoping it might be a bit like Best in Show, where they're all like really
I
competitive.
love that Christopher Guest movie. I mean, it is so hysterical. The whole series of those movies is amazing. They're amazing, aren't they? So while you've been doing all of this work around food and telling these stories of people working in food, living off the land, creating things, chefs, restaurateurs, all of these different things you've been doing, how has that helped you understand your relationship with food as a food writer? I'm just fascinated by this.
It's so funny that someone who just, I've basically eaten what I've wanted, like, and then I would diet. Like my whole, premenopausal life, you'd pull the ripcord a bit, you might drink a bit too much, eat a bit too much crap, and then you'd go on a intermittent fasting, adventure, or I'm not eating white food this month, or I was that person. I was like up and down like a yo-yo, and getting the job as food editor and restaurant critic at a major metro newspaper, which means that your face is on dartboards in kitchens all over Victoria.
Bet. Oh,
and you get the most obsequious, weird service when you go anywhere because, chef would really like you to taste this. It's it sounds fabulous, but it's not fun going out because you're always working. So, it's not as
Even
great
if
as
you're
what.
not there to review something, they know your face and say, oh, wow,
So you
yeah.
have to watch what everyone else is doing and how everyone else is being treated as a marker for their service. But anyway, I
Yeah.
digress. I basically got a job for myself that enabled me to eat for a living. Right? So I was constantly being sent things by PR companies wanting me to write about this brand new donut that's coated in this and then deep fried again, or um, you really need to try this new biscuit that is they used to make horrific things. I went through a stage up into lockdown where everyone was making freaky large sweet things. Like, it didn't matter.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
And feeding their sourdough starter and making bread.
Yeah, all the carbs. But I would, every time someone delivered something, it was just like, oh, that's so nice. I'll have to try a bit, even if I want, like, whether I wanted it or not.
Oh, gosh, tell me about that. Eating when you don't want it, eating when you're not hungry, having to
I
eat
made it
when
an
it
art.
doesn't appeal to you. What did
I
that
made
do
it
for
an
your
art form. It was an
relationship?
art form.
Whoa.
I just,
Whoa.
it was crazy. Like, I was working, Tess. I was working. Of course I had to eat it. It was my job. And
Oh.
so, and it was almost like it was something I didn't like a whole heap of, like, I did a food tour in Springvale. I actually organised it for the city of Dandenong for all of the offal in all the little Vietnamese joints. So it was like
You've
a
lost
weird
me already.
food tour of Springvale. And it's not that I particularly enjoy that food. It's just like, I have to try that. It's something I
Yeah.
haven't done before. I haven't had the fur soup with, all of the bits in it that you can't describe. So what does Wendy do? She suggests doing it for the council and actually running tours to show people how to do it. So honestly, I had a great time, 10, 15 years or so of just constantly like being invited to the most fabulous things, getting to meet Heston Blumenthal
Oh.
and all these amazing chefs. And I rode the Master Chef wave,
Yeah, my
which is,
sister worked on MasterChef and she just fell in love with him. She said he is delightful. And I was quite jealous, I admit. Oh my goodness, he's
a
delicious,
lovely bloke.
like chocolate.
And then he brought Fat Duck to Melbourne. Like, think about the fact that he brought all of his staff, all of his chattels, all of his plates, everything
Yeah.
was brought to Melbourne for a little while. But it was, I drank from the Kool-Aid. I actually became part of that whole machine that was celebrating how wonderful Melbourne was, how great Victoria was. And
And it is.
yeah,
It is.
it's
Having lived
incredible.
all over the world, Melbourne is one of the great cities of the world, even without being parochial. It is a great food city of the world.
I feel very fortunate to have had the experience I've had here to be able to do
Yeah.
that. And
And so
yeah,
many beautiful things about it. And I hear you about that. I'm interested in how that influenced and affected and shifted your joy with food,
well, yeah, I
choices.
mean,
Yeah, how did
mm,
that change?
like, yeah, I touched on it before. Like, it was almost feigned joy. Like, I had to think about how I was going to write about it and think about how others would see this. And is this going to be something that really suits that market? Oh, I'm not really sure. Like, you're just constantly analysing as you eat. And when you go out for
Oh,
dinner, you're
yeah.
constantly thinking, oh, they didn't do that. They didn't do that. Okay. Did I feel like I got a warm hug when I walked in the room? No. Did that person? No. Like, there was no sitting down and going, wow, this is the most beautiful piece of food I'd ever seen. That was like, it was almost like passing muster, like, oh yeah, that was really good. Okay, what's next? And so I did lose a bit of that joyfulness around food. But then now that you ask that, I wonder whether I ever really had joy around food. It was an expression of love, but did it bring me joy? It was a habit. It was an expression of love that my little Wendy brain has decided is the way love is, but it's not. I mean, it
Well,
can be.
I wanna hear more about that. So, how have things shifted now when you can be fully present just for yourself with what you are choosing to eat? How do you taste food differently now?
Well, I'm now in this postmenopausal phase where if you do go for the wine and the sugar and the simple carbs, my body responds by having a complete weirdo inflammatory, response. It's crazy. No one tells you this stuff. How great your body is at processing poisonous food when you're
When you're
younger.
younger,
Yeah.
well, because estrogen and progesterone, they're protective hormones.
Mm.
Everything just gets masked a lot when you're younger. The inflammation is still happening.
Yeah, of
We're just more
course.
resilient. And then as our protective hormones are in free fall, everything comes to the fore, right? Comes to the surface. I mean, menopause is such an invitation to practice self-care
It
in a more
really is.
mindful way. Yeah.
And so it's all converged, I think. I went through
Mm,
menopause during lockdown.
mm,
I didn't really know I was, because I had an IUD in at the time, so I wasn't actually menstruating, but I went through it without any major hiccups and came out the other end, and it was only just feeling a bit sore, and it
mm.
actually built up. It wasn't a sudden thing. It built up, and I realized that I just couldn't be the person I was. I just had to switch my whole attitude to food. It wasn't a reward anymore. It wasn't something I deserved. It wasn't something that I'd earned, or something I'd been a good girl and I got this, or it wasn't my job. I stepped right away from all of those stories that I told myself about food and told a new story, which I've been doing since I met you, Tess, actually. Thank you.
Oh,
A new story. And that
you're
is
so
that,
welcome. But you gave that to yourself because you decided it has to be me.
well, that's right. But it was literally telling myself, whenever I reached for the crab, telling myself, does this nourish me? Does this get me to where I want to go? Does this
Mm.
fuel my body and make me feel better? And inevitably the answer would be no. Sometimes the answer would be, yeah, fuck it.
Yeah. And that's okay too.
And that's
That's a balanced
okay. Yeah,
relationship with food.
yeah. So I've just switched it all to, without, the last thing I want to do is, I hate those people who are really anal about it. And it's like, oh, can't do that. That's got a bit too much this. And have you got enough protein? Blah, 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 blah. And I know, having gone through your program, how important protein is. But I don't want to be that person that counts everything and
Oh, that's no joy.
gets
There's no
stressed.
joy to be found in that place.
No, absolutely. So it's now figuring out exactly what my body's craving, not what my brain is craving.
Ooh. So
Yeah.
how are you becoming more intuitive about that? Just
I
mindfully redirecting yourself or
it's a really interesting one, Tess, actually, because I've always thought of myself as an intuitive person, but it's been to do with my career. Like, I call them my spidey senses, where I can tell when someone's bullshitting me. I feel it viscerally when there's a story, when the angle's just dropped. Ah, that's what everyone wants to know. That's the secret that you've been wanting to tell the world but never have. Like, I've got that skill, and I also have someone. Someone told me I've got cow eyes, which means that people trust me and release information that they would never have normally released. Like, I have that, whatever that thing is, that makes people feel very comfortable to share, which is
warmth and
great.
authenticity is what I would say about you.
Well, I thank you. It is, it's all that matters, really, to me, is being authentic. It's all that matters. But, and it's all I've got, because I work for myself. And so I only have my own reputation.
Well,
All,
also love and respect. You were
hmm,
speaking to that earlier about respecting other people, respecting their stories, and being genuinely interested.
yeah, curiosity is a really cool
Yes,
thing.
that's what you had. That's your superpower.
It is. And I suppose that, to answer your question, that's what I'm applying to, that intuitive thought now. Is like, just keep
Yes.
asking the question and asking the question. And I've also been doing this thing. I can't even remember the name of the book. I read something that you should sit down and write 3 full pages of stream of consciousness writing before you do anything else, before you have a coffee, before you have a shower.
Yeah,
Sit
The
down
Artist
and just
Way.
The Artist Way. That's it.
Yeah.
I just
Julia Cameron. That was a book that went viral all those decades ago, and we're
yeah.
still doing it. Yeah, it's
I
great.
heard about it on a podcast and I only listened to the first couple of chapters, and then I've been doing that for the last 3 weeks, Tess, and it's extraordinary the shit that's coming out.
Yeah,
Like
it's
it's
very
like an
powerful practice.
enema.
Oh, that's a great way of thinking about it. But
Mm,
it is a form of meditation. It's
mm,
a form of meditation where there's room to explore what's going on in the stillness among the chaos.
yeah,
I really, yeah, it's a beautiful practice, and why it took off in the world, because
yeah.
people were experiencing what you're experiencing.
Well, for me, I've always tried to journal, and because writing has been my trade for so long, I just found it a chore. Like writing's what I do, and I don't get much joy from it. It's just something that I know how to. I'm in automatic pilot, and I can turn a complex situation issue into something simple and condense it. That's that's what you learn as a newspaper journalist, and it's something that's dying, unfortunately. But
Mm.
to sit down and just rave on about whatever in my longhand, because I did shorthand when I was a cadet. It's half shorthand, half longhand. So I have no worries about anyone actually reading my intimate thoughts because no one will be able to understand it.
But it brings up something that's really interesting to me about celebrating other people's stories and telling and interpreting the story for others, and then stories that are just yours,
Mm.
just for you.
Too precious.
Mm, it's
Mm.
sacred.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't think I've been so busy telling everyone else's stories that I've never really sunk into it. So
Oh, I
that,
want to hear more about that. I want to hear more about being in your own story.
mm,
And what's coming up for me is what you were saying before about how many of the next "it has to be me" moments for you were born out of dreams that happened in solitude, when you were fully present inside your own story and listening to that stream of consciousness,
yeah, it's
whether you're
stillness.
writing it down or not.
Mm.
Mm.
No, it's when I'm still, because I've never ever been still my whole life. There's no stillness. If I'm still, there's something wrong. Why is it so quiet?
Is that why the throwing and the pottery resonated with you so deeply? Because you're
Oh yeah.
there with the movement of the clay, and you can control it, but sometimes you can't, and it's sort of taking on a life of its own in a way and evolving in the present?
Oh, for sure. Like if you can't, if you're not still, you can't center the clay on the wheel. Like if your brain's busy,
Mm,
you can't center the clay. It'll be wobble, 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 wobble. There's no. You have
mm,
to have stillness in your mind in order to have stillness in your arm to hold it there. And it taught me so much, that I wasn't ever still in my mind. And I actually I've been doing some breath work at this new gym that I'm going to, which has been fascinating. And I want to actually collaborate with them and do breath work sessions in a beginner pottery session so
oh,
people can actually
fantastic.
drop into it and feel what it's like when your hands in the clay are centered. It's a blissful thing when the wheel's going full pelt and it's completely still. And then you start pulling the clay up into a shape, and you've still got, it's complete stillness, but you're creating this whole new form, and it's from the earth. There's something really primal about it as well. And you, a potter who I love, who's taught me so many things. She came up with the best phrase ever for pottery, for someone who cooks for the hospitality or makes things for the hospitality industry. She said, chefs and potters are the same. They take from the earth, add water and heat, and give back with love.
Oh, I love that.
And it's like, oh, it makes me tingle now. It's like, Gee, I wish I'd thought of that. I love those words.
But you know what's so great is the words don't have to be ours
That's right.
to share them and to
Mm,
live them.
that's right. And
So
it's
thank you for
true.
sharing them because, yeah, that really resonates with me as well.
Yeah, it's a beautiful way of thinking about it. And I mean, we've recycled everything in our studio, and we, all of the stuff we make is made out of recycled clay. Like there's this lovely, lovely circular thing happening in there, and I'm now getting so much joy out of teaching beginner potters
Mm.
how to be centered. It's amazing. I never would have thought that that's where I'd find my happy place, but part of it is hopping in the car to go bush and talking to people and collecting stories, and I still love doing that. But yeah, the I've got a two-sided coin going on at the moment. It's flipping all over the joint.
Oh, I like that. I think that's what makes life interesting. I've always got a flipping coin. I'm telling you, it's just no 2 days are the same, and
I
that's
can't
why.
believe how many sides to your coin you've got. You're on stage doing some performance with a play and getting standing ovations, and then you're doing a podcast, and then you're leading a health revolution. Like,
Oh,
whoa.
no, it's fun. It's fun, but to your point, it's all about story,
Mm,
and it's all about living your own story, celebrating the stories of others, and what happens when your story and the story of others collide and meet, and all this beautiful magic happens. It's really incredible, and what we learn about ourselves through that process. So, what else have you been learning about yourself the last few years while you've been making these changes to the way that you eat, really with curiosity, exploring your evolving and changing relationship with food, where you want to be spending your time, and how you want to be engaging with yourself? What else have you been learning about yourself?
I I've realized that I haven't been a great friend to my female friends, like that I've been shallow because I've been so busy, and I've loved being busy. I've loved everyone thinking that I was busy. I'm
Mm.
sorry, I'm so busy. All that crap. Like, when everything grinds to a halt and you have a chance to take a breath, um, you realize that that cult of busyness is just such an unhealthy, toxic way to live. And so in the last few years, when people have an idea to do something, I just say yes. I don't even think about it. If it's someone I love, I'll just say yes, and I'll figure out how to do it later.
So
Um,
you're reprioritizing where
yeah.
you choose to spend your time. Was that a realization that was smashed in your face during lockdown and COVID when you weren't as busy, or did you actively seek that change out?
Do you know what's really odd? Because if you haven't noticed, I'm a bit of an extrovert.
No, really?
I married an introvert who's to the right of Genghis Khan in the political spectrum, and I'm an extroverted lefty. Like it's hilarious. But during that time when I hate using the L word. It was just such a shitty time. It feels like a long distant memory now, doesn't it? Like it's so long ago. But
I
there's
don't know. People still seem pretty angry about it. The residual effects are still alive and kicking in this city.
oh, it was pretty evil at the time. But the the thing that happened was that I became an introvert and I loved it. I loved it. I was at home, I was baking and cooking, and I had my two daughters and my beautiful husband and my little dog Murphy, who needed to be walked 10 times a day because, it actually fucked up my dog more than anyone because he thought that was really, he was only a few years old when lockdown happened, and he thought that what was normal, that everyone would be there at his beck and command, and now life's got back to normal again. He's like, oh, I'm so anxious.
Oh, gosh. But it brings up something that came up for me years ago where I always identified as an extrovert until I understood that it's what we recharge as. And I don't recharge from other
Yes.
people, even though I enjoy them when I choose to be with them. I recharge very much on my own. So I'm an introvert that presents socially as an extrovert. So lockdown wasn't challenging for me at all. It was like balm for the soul, really, because I just, instead of traveling all over the world and being gone for pretty much 3 weeks of every month, like you had been, I was suddenly sleeping in the same bed every single day for 2 years in a way that I never had my entire life. And it really was a perspective shifter. And then obviously as you move into your 50s, it is an invitation to become more interested in sense of self and
Mm,
less interested in persona construction.
yes.
So, well, there's that swimming around for both of us as well.
Mm, absolutely.
So,
It's funny though, Tess, because
yeah.
I was really digging on being introverted in lockdown until I started getting sick. I actually, and it wasn't like a sick like a flu or a autoimmune thing, or it was just complete lethargy. And because I thought I was being all wholesome and good and everything, sparkly and lovely, and aren't we great at home as our little family, and this is beautiful. But I was actually being drained without knowing it at the time, and that I really needed to step out and meet new people, and that's how I get my energy. And
Mm.
as
So
soon as
you
I
are
was,
a true extrovert.
yeah, yeah, I
Mm.
thought I was an introvert, and I really enjoyed playing in that sandpit for a little while. But no, it actually affected my health, which was bizarre.
And but it brings up another really important point that we can swim in both ponds, even though we may gravitate and feel more comfortable in one. We don't have to identify as such.
Yeah.
And when you need to be by yourself and top up and regenerate and rest and shut out the noise of others, you can.
Mm.
And then when you're done, you're done. And then you can emerge again, which is exactly what you did. What else have you been learning about yourself?
That I'm not a good employee.
Oh, you and me both.
Like dropping out of being an employee in newspapers was the best thing I ever did. And um, having a well-honed bullshit detector as a journalist has enabled me as a businesswoman to just only work with people who give me good energy, and like get rid of all the energy drains from my life. And that's been probably the single best thing. Like when I first went out in business on my own, it was just like, oh, you want to give me money? Yeah, sure, let's play. And it was very different. And I was busting a gut for people for whom I would never be able to give enough to. Those people that just constantly want what you've got, and as an endless supply. And so learned that, and now if I can smell even a little bit of energy drain on someone, I'll just, smile and wave.
Yes, that does not have to be me, is what I say to myself.
Yeah.
Right? And look, again, the wisdom of age
Mm,
plays such a major role in that, and it's a beautiful thing when you just decide you're just going to live on your own terms and only have people, around you who elevate and celebrate and make you better than you'd ever be on your own. And
yeah,
that's how I
yeah,
look at it now. It's just you absolutely want to be around people that celebrate others.
yeah. Which you do in this. It's amazing. Do you know? After all this time, I've done podcasts for other organisations. I've hosted podcasts, but I've never done my own podcast like you're doing. And I've got nothing but admiration for you batting up with this all the time. I can see you get a lot of good energy out of it. It's
Oh, I
fantastic.
love it. This is a passion project. I love it so much. You'd be so wonderful at it. I mean, we don't know what's coming for you next, and who knows, right? I may be listening to your podcast one day. I mean, this is the thing. We do things when we decide it has to be me.
Mm,
Like I've always wanted to do a podcast, but it just wasn't the right time because I decided it wasn't the right time because I was so busy and
same.
traveling so much. And when would I have ever recorded anything? That's the truth. And also didn't really know what I wanted the podcast to be. And then it just became so clear to me a couple of years ago that I wanted to celebrate people, and there it has to be me moments going, yeah, it has to be me to do that. And you don't second guess it and you just do it. And you are very much that way. I mean, you just embody that. But and the message of what you were saying earlier about so many of your choices being born out of dreams. Now, you were talking about two literal vivid dreams while you were sleeping, but we're living with dreams every day in consciousness.
Mm.
And we don't give ourselves permission to listen to those
It's
dreams.
not just dreams, Tess. It's actually, I I really believe the closest thing that I would get to being religious, because I'm an atheist. I wasn't raised in a church, but I believe that the closest thing I get to religion is dropping into that moment where it's an obvious sign that that's where you need to be and where you need
Yep.
to go. And
Yep.
I've realized I've been so lucky my whole life that I've felt, well, as a young journalist, I was 17, I didn't even have my license, but I was able to walk into any room with my notebook and say who I was, where I was from, and you need to talk to me because this story is coming out tomorrow. And it was like a superpower. It was actually something that was a bit hard to give up. It was like I had my Supergirl cape on, and but
Mm.
I could talk to prime ministers. I got to interview George Clooney. I nearly
Yeah.
wet my pants.
Well, I would have too.
He was so beautiful. I'm just looking at him, and he's waiting for a question, and I was just going, oh, it was so gorgeous. I lost my words.
Oh, listen, you and I'm sure thousands of journalists before you. How did being a journalist at such a young age and having that power and that authority help you claim and recognize the agency that you had in
Well,
life?
I never felt resistance. So and when you're crafting a story, when you've got a sniff of a story, you know someone's up to no good, or you know something really interesting is happening. You've got a sniff, and this is something that you can use in whatever you're doing in life. You've got a sniff of something you want, right? And you just go, okay, who'd know more about that? I'm going to ring them, and they open up a whole new set of doors, and then you think, who's going to be the next most obvious thing? What's going to be the next most obvious? Okay, I'll go in that direction. And that's how your mind works as a journalist. It's like
Mm.
hitting T intersections and deciding left or right constantly. And
And asking questions.
asking
That's how we get
questions.
answers.
Exactly, just always being curious. And
Mm.
and so in my non-work life, I've always been like that as well. It's like, why can't I do that? I'm just going to ask. And I find it really odd for my daughter's generation who can't pick up a phone, and oh my God, how could you possibly put yourself out there? Oh my, like, because the fear of ridicule is so pervasive now in the social media world, that it's not just social media, just generally in, kids under 25, they've got this fear of looking bad, which we were blessed to not have a little bit as teenagers.
God, I'm glad you didn't have it. I'm so happy for you, but I've always had that.
Oh, but you're an actor, darling. Of course you do. But it's true. Like it's like this thing it stops you from lurching into something that you really want to do because of fear. And I suppose I've been so lucky that I haven't had any of that fear. I just go, that looks interesting. I'm going to dive down that rabbit hole.
You're a chaser, aren't you?
Mm.
Like, you chase the story, you chase the opportunity, you chase the next experience. You're seeking it out. You're actively pursuing it. It's got such like a kinetic energy. It's so full of vitality.
Oh, there's also a yin and a yang to that. Like, there's that side, and there's the other side, which is, oh, bright shiny thing. I'm going to go over there, and then I'm going to go over there. Ooh, and it's like this whole full-on dysfunction because you don't allow yourself to actually sit in and really work on something.
There it is again, what you were talking about being present in your experience. So your superpower is your Achilles heel when not held in balance.
Yeah.
We're not held in balance. And when it's not in balance, you are always looking at the next thing, and you're not fully present with what is. Did being a journalist help you hone your intuition? Like you were talking about this bullshit detector, this sniffing, and trusting that that's where the lead is and just following the lead. How does that bleed over to the rest of your life in terms of trusting your intuition?
it's so hard to sort of explain how intuition feels, isn't it? Like
It is, but I'd love to have you try.
it's for me, it's just a stop sign or a go sign. Like honestly, it's that clear to me. Like when if I really just sit and think in that moment, what's right, it's obvious. But sometimes there's oscillation if it's a really big financial decision or if it involves other people that you love. You'll do the chart of pros and cons and you'll go through all of that. But I always have a very instant reaction, and sometimes I've made the mistake of ignoring it, and I'm always wrong.
Oh, you and me both. Yeah. I mean, you've pretty much just in a sense answered the question that I always close every episode with, but I'd love to hear what you would add to it when I ask it to you directly, which is when you have a dream in your heart and you feel like you don't have what it takes to make it happen, what do you say to yourself? What do you do?
When I have a dream in my heart, I actually I usually drop in and say hello to little Wendy. I like to put myself through this little filter of what would little Wendy do? What would little Wendy think of this? She had everything. She had the heart, she had the energy, she had the world at her feet, this little person who hadn't been formed into anything yet. And I just think if you can drop into that innocent, pre-formed person that you were, you'll always get the answer. It's all very woo-woo. It's quite, if you asked 20-year-old or 30-year-old Wendy that same question, I'd probably just say, oh, I just know.
Well, the stop and the go is pretty clear, as you've said.
Yeah, but I think
what does the 50-something-year-old Wendy say?
Yeah, it's definitely asking. I call her LW, little Wendy.
Yeah,
so it's like, how does she feel about this? And you get a feeling. You get a feeling of like, if you drop away all of the hoarding and all of the padding. I mean, I'm still carrying my food journalist padding on me. I don't know if I'll ever get rid of that. You carry your life padding on you and your scars and everything that's happened to you. And we all make decisions through those filters, right?
Yeah, they're antennas.
Yeah. And so if you can find a way to drop out of that and into that Play-Doh that you were, like that unformed Play-Doh that you were as a child.
The clay.
The clay, exactly. Why didn't I say that?
Oh, yeah.
The ball of clay. It's like it hasn't been made into anything. And if you can drop into that, then it just becomes a little bit more obvious. At least it does for me. And I've also got three filters. I'm calling them my sieves. And it's come out of doing my 3 pages every morning, getting up with my stream of consciousness writing. And all of my decisions have to pass through these sieves. And one is it playful? Does it give me a sense of joy? Does it give me vitality? And that, not necessarily health, but just a feeling of health, like whether it's, it's food and exercise and all those things, but it's bigger than that, right? And does it give me a connection to other human beings? If I get 2 out of 3 of those filters, I'll consider it. If I get 3 out of 3, I'm all in.
Oh, I'm stealing that from you.
With pleasure, Dale. Take it and run with it.
Oh, I will, and I'm going to make it my own now. That old saying of good actors borrow, great actors steal, and make it their own.
There's nothing new in this world.
Yeah.
There's no new stories. Everything's been written before. Like we just have to get over ourselves. If you're worried about, having to be new at everything, it's crap. You acknowledge people you learn from and share. That's what I reckon anyway.
Oh, I agree. Oh, thank you for this beautiful conversation.
It's been my pleasure. I've really enjoyed talking to you, Tess. Thanks for the opportunity.
Oh, isn't she fun? I just really appreciated her honesty about her relationship with food and how she learnt to love the land and finding everything she needed on the farm, and how her grandmother and her mother always had cakes and treats. Her father with the chocolate bar tucked inside the evening paper. Food and sweet treats were how her family showed love. And we do hook memories to food. It becomes part of our body, and we carry that way of being, that relationship around for the rest of our lives, unless we consciously change the story, like she did by being in our 60-day reset. This idea of using food as a reward. I deserve that. I've had a hard day. Using food for safety and comfort gets modeled to us in society all the time, and how important it is to be aware of that relationship with food and desire and love and connection. I appreciated what she was saying about being aware of what drives you. What did she say? The best thing about being in your late 50s is being more circumspect about what's been driving you. I've never been a food critic, so I find her perspective and how that informed her relationship with food just fascinating. What eating for a living does, having to eat when you don't want it, eat when you're not hungry or when it doesn't appeal to you, or eating too much because you want to try everything. There's a lot of people working in industries like that. Be interested to see if you have a similar experience. So is food just a habit and something you do for sustenance, a means to an end, or do you actually experience joy from food? Are you using food to comfort, placate, and hide, or using food to celebrate your life and using it as a source of joy and connection? It is inspiring how she mindfully decided to step away from the old stories of I deserve this or I've earned this with food. And now she's asking herself, does this nourish me? Does this get me where I want to go? Does this fuel my body and make me better? It's great that she learned about all of that in such a short period of time and is now playing it out past her time in the program, and how important protein is. It's an absolute game changer in your 50s. And being authentic about who you are. It was interesting when she was talking about how she moved to the big city, couldn't wait to get out of the country, but realized that wasn't really who she was, that she spoke country and she actually enjoyed it. She enjoyed that pace. She enjoyed those stories. It became her love job, celebrating those stories. And whether you're a journalist or not, being curious, just keep sniffing around and asking questions and finding genuine interest in your own stories and the stories of others. I loved when she said, as a journalist, I never felt resistance. Just keep asking the next logical person for help, and it will open up a whole new set of doors. Why can't I do that? Okay, well, I'm just going to ask. Letting go of that fear of ridicule and just asking questions and creating relationships, whether people are going to laugh at you or not. And most often they do not. They're happy to help. And I also really enjoyed listening to her talk through about how she's finding more balance later in life, about that balance between self-care and care for others, about celebrating the stories of others, but also sinking into her own story. And throughout menopause and the pandemic, she was taking up that invitation to be inside her own story more, because it is all about stories, living in your own story, celebrating the stories of others, and paying attention to what happens when your story and the story of others collide, and what we learn about ourselves through our interactions. And the beauty of community, the value of participating in your local community and forming connections with the people around you, actively taking part in owning, cultivating, nourishing, and feeding your community. And we're getting more and more disconnected as we spend more time on devices. So it's more important than ever before. And that energetic hygiene that she was talking about, how she's just decided, I'm only having people around me who elevate and celebrate and make me better than I'd be on my own. I'm only working with people who give good energy, and I get rid of all the energy that drains me. If I can smell even a little bit of it, I just smile and wave. I love that tip. And the cult of busyness, her being so transparent around how she was just keeping herself busy, busy, busy all the time. And she was missing out on really deep connections with some of her friends. And so now she's actively deciding later in life to be present for relationship with others. And how stillness has helped her see what's really important, and pottery was the way that she found stillness. If you just grind everything to a halt, you've got a chance to take a breath and take stock of what's important. Oh, I love what her friend said about chefs and potters, that they're the same. They take from the earth, add water and heat, and give back with love. Oh, it's beautiful. And I love how she dreams things into existence, how so many of her choices have been born out of dreams. And that is what we're all doing. We're living with dreams every day in consciousness and while we're sleeping. We often just don't give ourselves permission to listen to those dreams and take action on them, which is what this podcast is all about. What did she say? The closest thing I get to religion is dropping into the moment where there is an obvious sign. That's where you need to be and where you need to go. How the idea for her radio show came about. She pitched it, and look, she's made it happen on the #1 rated radio show in Melbourne, a city of 6.5 million people. She made that radio show happen. And with the pottery, she imagined herself with the clay in a dream, and she picked it up as a new hobby. Now she's teaching and making pieces for chefs and restaurateurs, and who knows what she'll do with it next. That whole don't ask, don't get, just go for it philosophy. And those lessons that she was teaching us about using your agency and owning your authority and your superpowers, just chasing the next opportunity and experience, actively pursuing what you want and staying present with it. It is kinetic energy that's full of vitality and possibilities. And what she said about intuition really resonated with me. For her, it's a stop sign or a go sign. And her first reaction is often the right one. And when she doesn't listen to it, it all goes awry. Oh, and I love the little Wendy conversation. I'm stealing that now. What did she say? When I don't know what to do, I drop in and say hello to little Wendy. I like to put myself through the filter of what would she do. She had everything. She had the heart. She had the energy. She had the world at her feet. Just connecting with that little person that you were, that innocent, preformed person that you were as a child. And you'll always find the answer. I love her 3 filters for decisions. Is it playful and does it give me joy? Does it give me vitality? Or does it give me connection to other human beings? If I get 2 out of the 3, I'll consider it. If I get 3 out of the 3, I'm all in. I think I'm going to steal that as well. And also, everything has been written before. Just get over having to be new or so different, something that's never happened before. Just acknowledge the people you learn from and put your voice in the mix and make it your own. I really appreciate that, because we often can get really hung up. Oh, it's been done. I don't know. People don't want to hear what I have to say. It's just simply not true. Nobody is uniquely you. So just go for it. I am so interested to hear what resonated with you from this conversation about the relationship with food, but also stories and being authentic in it. So, please leave a comment in the Facebook group. Please leave a review. Wendy would love it. And you can connect with Wendy at breadandbuttermedia.com.au. All of the links are in the show notes. Can't wait to hear.
I want to hear about your It Has to Be Me story. So head on over to ithastobeme.com/stories to share it in our free community. You can also join the conversations we're having about this episode and others. I'm Tess Masters. Join me next week and we'll dive inside another great story to help us go from dreaming to doing.